What's up, everybody? This is Move the Sticks, the workshop series presented by Lowe's. DJ and Buck with you. Buck, what is going on, man?
Not too much, DJ. We are getting one step closer. We got the final week of preseason, and then you got that week and a half sabbatical, and it's on. And it's so crazy how it gets here because it's not only the NFL season. We got college football kicking off this weekend, and then it's the sprint. I mean, it's not even the sprint; it's the marathon. In the NFL, it's the marathon to February, and then in college, it's just to the beginning of January. So it should be a lot of fun.
Yeah, you heard there at the top. This is a different episode here. This is part of the workshop series presented by Lowe's. So we're going to do 3 of these, one a month, where we're going to take one specific team and really kind of take them into the workshop, Buck, about what they've been able to do to try and transform a losing organization into a winning organization with a lot of changes, not just a Caleb Williams move here. There was a lot of other roster additions to this team really over the last year. And that's where I want to start, because when we look at changing this team, I think that began last year, midway through the year, when they made that trade for Montez Sweat. This defense it was a top 5 defense, as good as any defense in the NFL once he got there last year. Just your take on the timing of that move, the decision to make that move, and the impact that Montez Sweat had last year and going forward.
Yeah, I think Montez Sweat coming over coincides with Matt Eberflus really taking over the defense. Defense coordinator Alan Williams steps away. Eberflus has to take over, has to become the defensive play caller, a role that he flourished in during his time in Indianapolis. And then when he kind of assumes the position with the Bears as head coach and defensive play caller, this defense really kicked off. But part of the reason is because they're playing the style that he's always wanted to play. And that was helped by the fact that Montez Sweat came over and gave them a legitimate weapon on the edges. And if you study Montez Sweat from his time at Mississippi State to how he played with the Commanders, he's always been a high effort, high motor, energy player. And everything that Matt Eberflus wants to do on defense starts with that part of it: effort, hustle, all of the energy and those things. And so it's really a perfect marriage. And what you saw was when Eberflus gets the type of pass rusher that he needs, that this defense demands, man, it goes next level. And so that was, I would say, the core building block that they needed: a dominant pass rusher off the edge that would give them that steady presence where they didn't have to blitz to heat up the quarterback. They could do it with a 4-man rush.
Yeah, and you hit it too. When you go back and watch all those sacks last year, it's a 4-man rush, man. They are getting home, and he's doing it, off of some games as well as just winning on his own. And you see him win, man. He's got that length, Buck, the long arm move he used with his inside arm. He can walk the tackle straight back. You used the term, the energy that he brings. Like I wrote that down when I was just going through his video. I was like, this guy, it's kind of infectious, and we're going to get to Caleb Williams in a little bit. We'll talk about how this offense is going to be transformed. I do believe that Caleb Williams is kind of like a force multiplier because of not only his ability, but it's the ability combined with the energy and enthusiasm that he brings to the offense. Montez Sweat did that for the defense last year. If you wanted proof of concept, you saw it. You saw what he did individually and how I felt like everybody else around him on that defense with the Bears raise their level up. And that's when you got something special in a player.
Yeah, absolutely. And, the thing is, he was forced to play a complementary role in Washington because they had great players there. Even though he was a top pick, he still was down the line in the pecking order. And the move to Chicago gave him a chance to be something different. He got a chance to be the lead singer instead of a backup. And he has shown that he can be the lead guy. And when you think of some of the other players and additions that we'll talk about later, he's been able to step in, set the tone, set the stage, and create opportunities for others. And you can already tell that this defense has the top 10 feel based on Montez Sweat kind of leading the way.
Yeah, and you look at some of these other pieces in place, and we'll get to the draft, and we'll cover that in just a little bit. But when you look at some building blocks, I think Gervon Dexter is a key building block for them as a very athletic, enormous, perfect body type for how they want to play. Their second-round pick in 23. He's got a chance to be a really, really good player. They handled the linebacker position through free agency. When you go and get T.J. Edwards and Tremaine Edmonds, you guys are smart, they're tough, they're fast, they can cover. So they're good there. And then I would put, I don't know where you are, I'd put the secondary up in terms of talent up against just about anybody. I love Brisker at safety as a young player, 2nd-round pick in 2022. Jalen Johnson's a star. There's a reason he got $20 million a year. Kyler Gordon, especially just seeing him move around and how physical he's been in the preseason. I think he's got a chance to take a major leap as someone who's playing a nickel for them. Tyreek Stevenson is a physical, aggressive corner. Like that secondary is really good. Kevin Byard comes in the mix
Mhm.
there. So they have a lot of pieces that I think make sense and work together there.
Yeah, and it's funny because it's a defense where the scheme is evolving. So much of what Matt Eberflus used to do was about the Tampa 2 scheme, two deep safeties, five underneath, gonna play zone, eyes on the quarterback. And as they've gotten better personnel, they've shown the ability to do more man-to-man, more zone coverage. I mean, more zone blitzes and match pressures where you're using man-to-man principles within a zone. They're showing the ability to do that, and it only makes this defense that much more difficult to face because when your team that likes to operate primarily with a four-man rush, when you blitz, it's the element of surprise. And so it
Mhm.
surprisingly creates one-on-one opportunities for Montez Sweat and the other guys on the front line. And as this defense continues to prove in the back end, they're gonna be able to do more creative things on the front end.
And I want to touch on one draft pick on the defensive side of the ball. We'll kind of wrap up the defense before we get over to the offense and Caleb Williams and all the work that they've done on that side of the ball. Austin Booker, they got in the 5th round this year, has already been a stud in the preseason. He's been very
Yeah.
active. He's been productive. I know, my comp on him was like he was a Kirkland brand Max Crosby because he kind of has that same playing style. But when I watched him, I saw that same just
Mhm.
tenacious effort, Buck, and it's not just the length and the explosiveness. It's the fact that like when the play is dead on the front side and he's dead, so many young players, that's the end of the play for them.
Mhm.
He is chasing, he is sprinting down the field, chasing the ball away. And I'm just like, okay, that guy's wired the right way to go along with impressive athletic ability. They got themselves a good one there.
And I think it's the perfect marriage between front office and coaching staff being on the same page. The coaching staff being able to tell the front office these are the types of players that we need. These are the traits that we have to have in these certain positions, and then it's going and chasing those traits. And you talked about Booker and what he's already been able to display in the preseason. DJ, when you look at him, you look at him, and then you look at Montez Sweat. I mean, like they're very, very similar in terms of prototypical traits, their tools, the way they play, the energy and the effort. And if you're the Bears, ideally, that's what you're trying to create. You're trying to create rooms that have a lot of the same types of players. And that we talk about basketball teams at wide receiver, but that D line room, man, if you can get the big bodies, the big, tall, athletic players on the edges to go with the beefy guys on the interior, it gives you a chance to kind of dominate at the point of attack and dominate without having to use extra rushes and extra bodies in the pass rush.
Yeah, it all kind of goes together and all makes sense. And that's why, I mean, well, let me just put it to you. This defense over a 17 game season, and considering who they play in that division, Detroit, that's a high flying offense. I know Minnesota, Kirk Cousins is not there. It goes to Sam Darnold, but that's still Justin Jefferson and company. There's a lot of playmakers there as well. And obviously, we know Green Bay with all their plethora of young weapons. That's not an easy
Mhm.
offense. Can this defense, though, in Chicago, be a top 5 NFL defense this year?
It's weird because they can, but I don't know if they'll be like the dominating defense where they completely suffocate you. I think their ability to rise into the ranks of the top 5 is dependent upon their ability to produce turnovers. This is a
Hmm.
takeaway defense. They want to back you up. They want to win with 4. They want to get interceptions off tips and overthrows more so than what I would call the stifling suffocation that we've seen from some elite defenses. That's it. That's good enough. And if the offense is like we think it may be, that is going to be the perfect style to complement what they do on offense. Because if our offense is scoring points, now your defense is playing against an offense that's chasing points, eliminates the run game. Now you begin to get the big hits and the big tips and overthrows that lead to interceptions.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how they maintain it throughout the year. But I do think you can look in every position group on that defense, and they've got a blue player, a blue caliber player that they
Mhm.
can rely upon there, which is usually the sign of a pretty darn good defense, including a closer. I think Montez Sweat, he has all the tools to be an elite closer to finish ball games. They shouldn't have their offense run up scores to be able to play that way. But we're going to get to why that might change. We'll get to the offensive side of the ball in this workshop episode as we focus on the Bears right after this. All right, Buck. Let's switch it over to the offensive side of the ball. When you look at this offense, if you want to transform the offense, the easiest way to do it is obviously the quarterback position. They made the correct assessment. I think we can agree to punt on Bryce Young the year before, get a haul of picks. They don't select him. They decide to wait on the quarterback, and then man, it ends beautifully for them. With Carolina ended up with the first pick, which they own, and they're able to get Caleb Williams to go along with the other haul of picks they got for the Bryce Young trade. But that, to me, let's start there with that decision. How important was it for them to exercise patience, knowing that that wasn't the right guy, especially for them knowing, where they play and what's needed at the position in Chicago?
One of the things that we learn when we're very, very young in the scouting business is the importance of conviction as an evaluator, as a decision maker. And so for Ryan Poles to have enough conviction to know that, hey man, Bryce Young may be a good player, but he may not be a good player for us. He may not be the right player for us. A lot of times when you're building a team, the conversation never goes to who you're playing against within your division and the conditions in which you have to play when it gets to that stretch run in November, December. Bryce Young, his body build, his arm strength and talent might not have flown well in the windy city of Chicago. So they wait. They had a first-round player in Justin Fields that they wanted to exhaust all opportunities before they made a decision on quarterback. Didn't go the way that Justin Fields wants. They're able to make the move, and then they bring back a guy in Caleb Williams who appears to be the right fit for the way they want to go.
Yeah, I mean, I guess we should also mention, look, if they had taken C.J. Stroud and not made that trade, knowing how C.J. Stroud played last year, okay, maybe we could say, okay, they made the right decision. Obviously, Stroud was awesome. I do think Stroud walked into a different team in Houston than he would have walked into in Chicago last year. Because, we'll start with Caleb and focus there, but there's some other new pieces on this offense as well, Keenan Allen, DeAndre Swift. But with Caleb specifically, what you've seen from him this preseason, I know it's not. I don't think it's as perfect as maybe some would want it to be. But I also know that those that are just sitting there on their keyboards, just waiting to nitpick every little thing, we're probably a little disappointed seeing some of the plays he's made.
Well, absolutely. And, we talk about being a young scout and some of the things that you learn along the way. I was taught to grade the flashes when you're looking at college players. If they flash it multiple times, then they're capable of doing it. Now it's about bringing about the consistency. When you go back and look at Caleb Williams, first at Oklahoma, then at USC, there were a lot of flashes of high-end talent. And, the natural comparisons that a lot of people made were the Pat Mahomes. And it's crazy to compare a young player to a guy who's going to be a Hall of Famer, maybe go down as the greatest of all time at the position. But there are similarities in terms of their playmaking ability and the way that they kind of make things happen inside and outside of the pocket. The one part that you worried about with Caleb Williams after his final season at SC is, would he be able to rein it in? Because he had so much success with a freewheeling, freestyle play at SC, and maybe did it to his detriment his final season. Could he get back to the basics and kind of keep the main thing the main thing? Let me throw on time, on target from the pocket and use that superpower when needed. It appears that he understands when to use it, when not to. And if he can master that part early in his career, he is going to be a problem for defensive coordinators around the league.
I was watching, going through all of his preseason tape, and we talk so much about the Mahomes thing. Everybody used that comparison because of some of the magic. When I was watching the preseason stuff, and I know we talked about this briefly in the run-up to the draft. There's some young Russ there, like some young Russell Wilson. Some of these twirling, whirling plays where he's buying time and throwing off platform. Do you remember, like people see Russell Wilson now? Look, he's not what he was.
Yeah.
Go back to young Russ, those first couple years, again, great defense that they had. Don't need you to, play perfect, but can you generate a couple big plays? And I can remember some of those Arizona games. I remember Russell just kind of running all over the place and making some magic happen, exhausting plays. And then look, there was a sweet spot where Russell still had his athleticism, and then he did learn to play on time, and that's when some of those, big offensive years happened for him in Seattle. I think that Caleb has a chance to get to that version earlier in his career.
Yeah, it's funny you bring up the thing with Russell Wilson, because I think I've written it down in my report about Caleb Williams, that he could play like that and that he would be a nice comp to be able to do that. And It's unfortunately right now people are looking at the Russell that we're seeing in Pittsburgh, the one that's a little stocky, whatever. But the young Russ that was athletic and could make plays, he was kind of the best of both worlds because he had the discipline, patience, and restraint to play winning football within the confines of the offense. But he always could make it right with his athleticism. When Caleb Williams learns how to toe that line in terms of playing on script as opposed to playing off script and mixing in some of the improvisational playmaking ability, this offense is going to be terrific. And they've surrounded him with a perfect supporting cast to really elevate his game.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at Russ rushing the football, when you pull up some of those numbers, I mean, it was 489 yards, 539 yards. He had an 849-yard rushing season with 6 touchdowns. And a couple more 500-yard seasons in there. I think Caleb can have those. I think he can be maybe 500 to 600, 700 rushing yards to go along with some creative, magical plays he's able to accomplish in the passing game as well. But that was just kind of interesting to me, just seeing that. And I also, as we mentioned earlier, I think the energy thing, the vibe thing, the force multiplier, I think that exists. I think it not only brings hope in your offensive lineman of, hey, if I can just block a little bit longer, something good's going to happen back here. If I'm a receiver, if I can just stay alive on a broken play, we got a chance for that to happen. And even inside the stadium, hey, we're down. We don't need to go get some food. Let's stay in here. They're coming back on the field, and we might see something we've never seen before.
It's one of the things that is not talked about enough in terms of like the energy that is created from the quarterback's presence. We've talked about the quarterback. A franchise quarterback gives everyone in the organization hope, and that hope is something that you can feel on the sideline. So when you have a playmaker that can make it a variety of different ways, that has a proven track record of being able to lead you back, it changes the way that you play on defense. Because on defense on the sideline, you'll say to one another, hey, man, we just need to get Caleb the ball back. We just need to give this guy another chance. He can bring us back. And if you see some of the magic happen and it turns in positive results where you see these come from behind wins, well, then it just emboldens you to have this level of confidence that no matter what the game looks like, we always have an opportunity because the guy that we have as the QB1 is a legitimate dude, and that legitimate dude can always bring us back.
What gets you most excited about this receiving core? Because you got DJ Moore, who's come back. They just gave him a new contract. They make the trade for Keenan Allen, comes over from the Chargers, where he's just had a ridiculous amount of production, consistent production. No matter if it was Phillip Rivers or Justin Herbert, he's been outstanding. And then you go out and get Rome Odunze. So in that trio of wideouts, if we're going to focus on that position, who has you most excited?
Well, I'm excited about the collective, and I'm excited about how they all complement one another. So in DJ Moore, I think you have like the size, speed specimen, the guy who's terrific with the ball in his hands. He can make plays. He's proven to be, I would say, even a better number one receiver than many can imagine. In Keenan Allen, you have a freak show in terms of a big body slot receiver with unbelievable stop-start quickness in the slot. It's funny. We can talk about it's slow or not, but his ability to run option routes and create separation and twist defensive backs in the knots is, look, man, it's unrivaled for a guy of his size. And in Rome Odunze, I think you just have the consummate pro. Like he is, when I look at Rome Odunze, I just say, man, this is what a pro wide receiver is supposed to look like. From the way that he dresses in terms of in his uniform to the way that he runs routes and make plays and the versatility. To me, they have the perfect wide receiver core for the conditions that they're going to play in, because it's windy and it's cold. And I'm a believer that you need bigger bodies to deal with those elements. And then for a quarterback that likes to make plays, I think they just expand the strike zone, and it gives him confidence that he can throw it up in those 50-50 ball situations because his guys are going to come down with it.
Yeah, it is a complete room. I went back and watched Rome Odunze every rep that he's played so far in the preseason. I especially wanted to focus on him versus press. So I know there's some people saying, has he got enough quickness and twitch to be able to get off press and get away from press? I think some play, a player or two maybe got posted from training camp going up against Jalen Johnson, which, by the way, as we mentioned, is one of the top corners in the league. There's no shame in that. But I was curious to see how he did. He didn't have any issues, Buck. I mean, he can win with strength. He can win with quickness. He's sudden. He can escape. there's one rep in the Buffalo game going up against, again, one of the best nickels in the league there, where he plays underneath him and he's got an out route, and he cuts him off and takes it away. And I was like, okay, we'll see how much more of this shows up. That was the only one. That was the only play. And I saw him get on top early. He looks strong. So I mean, that's why when I get to that question of who are you most excited about, I think I might be most excited about Odunze because of broken plays. He's got an unbelievable innate feel, and you've already seen that manifest in a big play down the field against the Bengals. But he's got a real good feel on scramble rules. In the red zone, he's going to be able to play above the rim and really go get the ball. And then even you saw him flip him a reverse. People forget this guy returned kicks. Like, he is really good with the ball in his hands, man. He is really good with the ball in his hands.
I feel like that wasn't talked about enough during the evaluation, that he was a legitimate punt returner. And we've talked about the secret sauce to great wide receivers, maybe their ability to return punts because it showcases their open field running skills. And Odunze, being his size as their punt returner, says a lot about like his athleticism, his toughness, his running ability. And, it just makes them a more dangerous team, because when I look at that trio, Keenan Allen, I mean, everyone can get busy in terms of catch and run concepts, crossing routes, and those things. And then Odunze being able to run reverses. I mean, they just have a lot that they can throw at you without making it a very complex offense for the quarterback.
And lastly, in terms of the skill guys, you look at the addition of Swift. DeAndre Swift is someone with excellent burst, plays low to the ground. I think his style is going to play well. If you look at him in the Philly offense, what Philly did, obviously, with all their weapons, is they were able to create some space, and he was able to make some things happen. I don't think he's a creator in terms of, man, there's a wall of bodies there, and he's going to just push piles and kind of create something out of nothing. But I think he's a back that can capitalize on space. If you can get people spread out, you can get them in the open field a little bit, where they're catching the ball or running the ball. That's when he's at his best. And the last year's version of the Bears, I don't know if I love that. But I think you look at him going forward, and the group that they have, and with Caleb, and having to account for Caleb as a runner as you had to account for Jalen Hurts as a runner, I like the fit.
Yeah, no, it's a nice fit. They just have they have size, they have speed, they have the ability to move the chains with some possession playmakers, but then they also have the home run ball in a variety of ways. It's a really dynamic and unique offense that I don't know if they've ever seen the kind of personnel in Chicago, particularly on offense, to do it. It could be a lot of fun because they've had to look at their rivals to the north, the Green Bay Packers, and watch them play a certain style and have success throwing it all over the yard. And they had to look at that with envy. The Chicago Bears now can play that style in cold conditions, and they may be able to create some advantages.
Yeah, and I think, look, Cole Kmet's a nice tight end. You bring over Gerald Everett as a free agent, who's a nice move tight end, complements that well. Offensive line wise, excited about Darnell Wright, what he can be on the right side. There was a case to be made. I thought, there's a chance they might take a left tackle in the draft instead of Odunze. I love Odunze, but I thought that was at least a conversation. They obviously believe in Braxton Jones. I don't know that he's ever going to be a blue player, but he's got a chance to be develop and be a solid player. The interior of the offensive line would be an area that I'd be a little bit concerned. Let's see how that group plays together. But man, just from last year to this year, as we're doing this series, I don't know there's a greater transformation than the offense of the Chicago Bears.
I don't know if there's a more fun offense in terms of the transformation where you can sit and look and just get excited about what this team could be. A lot of pressure falls on the new offensive coordinator, Shane Waldron. He has to show that he can take all of those pieces of the puzzle and put it together and make it a work of art. But you got the quarterback, you got pass catchers, you got runners. The offensive line is in question, but some of the players on the offensive line are solid. It's just a matter of getting it all together. And if they can continue to play complementary football where the defense really matches what the offense is able to do, yeah, they're going to be there. They're going to be in the thick of it. Hard division, but they should be very, very competitive in the North.
All right, so this is the final verdict as we're wrapping this thing up. 7-10 last year, the Chicago Bears. Simple question: can they flip it?
Yes, I was going to say it's funny because I was thinking about the magic number. The magic number is 10. I think they can get to 10. I think they can get to 10. The buzz, the vibe, the energy around the team is such that they believe that they can make it happen, and their quarterback is certainly going to give them a chance to steal 2 or 3 games at the end of games.
Yeah, and I do think, the two best divisions in football this year, the deepest divisions, the must-watch divisions are in the North. It is the NFC North with the Bears, all those teams we're just talking about, the Vikings, the Lions, the Packers, and then it's the AFC North, which is the other intriguing division. So I think it's going to be very competitive. It's not going to be easy, but I do think that's attainable. I do think they could be a 10-7 team, provided everything goes well. But they're going to be watchable. They've gone from a semi-unwatchable product to one that I think, not just us, but I think those around the league are paying attention to see what this thing looks like in Chicago.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of excitement about it. I mean, they're on hard knocks. I mean, they are getting opportunities, primetime games. There's a lot of excitement about the quarterback. When the quarterback is good, the team has a chance to be great. It'll be fun to watch the number 1 overall pick, Caleb Williams, lead this team maybe to a postseason berth in his first season.
Well, no doubt. I hope you guys enjoyed this one today. We got 2 more of these coming up. We're going to do 1 a month here over the next couple months. So we appreciate you guys hanging with us as we focus on the Chicago Bears. This was Move the Sticks, the workshop series presented by Lowe's.